We're pleased to have Keith Buckley here, he's the athletic director at Pacific University. He took over effective July 1st, 2020, after serving as the head coach of the Pacific football program for 10 years and was the assistant athletic director for 2 years. He leads the student athlete success initiatives and coordinates with university-wide student success and retention initiatives. Charged with the relaunch of the football program in August of 2009, Buckley helped restart the Boxers football program as they fielded a team in 2010 for the first time since 1991. Buckley ranks third all-time in career wins, a 40-54 record, among Pacific football head coaches, behind Hall of Fame members Paul Stagg and Frank Buckowitz Sr. In 2014, he led the Boxers to the NWC title as the team tied for first, finishing 6-1 in conference play after just 5 years of restarting the program. Pacific became one of only 8 NCAA Division III teams since 1997 to win a conference title that quickly upon restarting a program. The team won 6 straight NWC games, setting a school record for longest NWC win streak and total number of conference victories. In 2016, Pacific and Buckley became the first NCAA Division III football program to host a game in Hawaii. The Pacific roster had 24 players who hailed from the 50th state, many of who were able to take part in the 45-22 win over Occidental. He earned his degrees in rhetoric and communications and English from UC Davis and got his master's degree in sports science, sports philosophy from the University of Idaho. He was inducted to the Hall of Fame at his prep alma mater, Milpitas High School, in 2012. Buckley and his wife, Kara, are the proud parents of 2 daughters, Kristen and Caitlin. And Mr. Buckley, we are happy to have you here.
Thank you. And this is something I always look forward to in the fall. This is obviously a little different than it's ever been, but I think every year that I was the head coach, I had the chance to come to a lunch and talk about our football program and talk about my excitement in being in Forest Grove. And I've been on campus now for 12 years, which is more than double my tenure at any other institution I was at prior to coming here. Really excited for this new challenge and this new opportunity that I'm taking on. I really kind of took over day-to-day operations about 8 weeks before the pandemic hit. So really haven't done the job that I'm tasked with doing yet, but we got a tremendous support group in athletic administration, and Andrea Stewart, who's on this call, is just an incredible partner in what we're trying to accomplish and get done as a department. And we're slowly getting our way towards some strategic and long-term vision planning for the department in the face of really just trying to survive the day at times. And last year was really, really challenging for us, as it was for everybody. But we got done what we needed to get done. We made it through an entire 24 sport seasons in the spring, which really taxed us. And only had to cancel one competition that Pacific had to back out of due to health and safety protocols. So we were incredibly proud with the effort that our student athletes, coaches, and staff all put in to keep everybody as safe as possible last year, while still allowing student athletes the opportunity to be together, to practice, to compete, to do the thing that they love, and really highlighted last year just how important the competitive experience is to the well-being of student athletes, those that have spent their entire lives competing in some fashion. To be able to do that last spring when the fall was completely shut down really did show how valuable it was. About 6 weeks ago, we thought we had turned a corner and we're going to have very limited restrictions as we return to campus this fall. And obviously the Delta variant has decided to change that for us. And we have had to adapt, but we've adapted in ways that are still going to allow the competitive experience to move forward without any without any hesitation, without any adaptation to our practice or competition schedules. But what it is going to do is impact our spectator policy. And I'm sure some of you were on the communication that came out earlier this week from the institution, but we are instituting a vaccination requirement for spectators to come to home contests this fall. So folks can show a vaccination card when they arrive. A photo of it is fine. Or if they do not have a vaccination, they'll need to submit a negative test within 3 days of the competition to be able to come in to our venues. And that is really rooted in trying to keep everybody as safe as possible and is in line with what Oregon and Oregon State are doing at their venues, what the Portland Trailblazers have announced at their venues, and as well as the Timbers and Thorns at Providence Park. So really almost everybody in the state of Oregon is doing that this fall, short of one institution that I'm aware of, George Fox, that is not requiring that vaccination. But everybody else, the Oregon Northwest Conference schools is instituting a vaccination policy for attendance. So with that said, we start competitions tonight with women's soccer in Hanson Stadium, and would love to have anybody out to come watch this young team as they're developing. Come and see us. And then we have men's soccer tomorrow night, again in Hanson Stadium. And then Friday night, we welcome everybody back to the start of football and the true start of Ian Falconer's tenure as the head football coach. And those that have been around the program know that Ian was with me from the first season on, was an assistant for 10 seasons with me. And he stepped into the head role when I became director of athletics. And he played a couple games in the spring, both against George Fox, just to get some competitive experience for the team. But this is really the rollout of the Ian Falconer era, and excited on Friday night under the lights in the first week of school for folks to get in and come see us. Tailgating lot is going to be open. The stands are going to be open. We have kind of changed some of the policies around the tailgating. And if you have questions about that, feel free to email me or Andrea offline, and we can help you through that. But we're excited to welcome everybody back and get the fall rolling. And we have a newer men's soccer coach, Brandon Porter, who is an alum, graduated in 2009, really at a time when Pacific men's soccer was at its peak. Competitiveness, made an NCAA tournament appearance, and Brandon has just done a tremendous job revamping the roster. He had 20 freshmen come in this year, so we're going to be really young, but there is a talented group there. Kip Yoshimura, who leads our volleyball team, has been really successful in the last 4 or 5 years, and look forward to a great season from them. And then we did make some updates in our track and cross country program. Cross country is in season in the fall, and we elevated Bailey Kofer, who was one of our assistants, into the head cross country coach position, and she has just done a tremendous job building up the distance program, both in cross country and in the spring in the track program. And then we elevated Ryan Hunter Sims, who was our throws assistant, to become the head track and field coach in the spring. And so really excited for them. And there's been, as there has been in a lot of industries, some turnover in the last couple of years as we've navigated the pandemic, but really excited with some of the up and coming coaches that we've been able to bring into the fold in Pacific. Braden Nash is our new golf coach, who replaced Richard Warren, who retired after 22 years as our golf coach on campus. And then Charlotte Kopp's our new rowing coach as well. And just really talented young up and coming coaches. And I think back, now that I no longer look young, That when I arrived in 2009, I was 34 years old and tasked with starting a football program, being a head football coach for the first time. And that energy and passion and excitement that it takes to coach today is needed. And I see that in a lot of these up and coming coaches that we welcome into the fold. And I think there's really, really good things coming for Pacific Athletics. And we're excited for the future, especially as we get out of the pandemic down the road here, whenever that becomes available to us. So appreciate you letting me come in and talk a little bit. And my favorite part of meeting with Rotary really is hearing questions from you and being able to answer your questions. And I know invariably Carl will have some good questions for me. So we'll open it up to anybody that's got questions.
Yeah, feel free to take yourself off mute and fire away.
Oh, Carl's got his hand up.
Yeah. Why don't you tell them a little bit about your first opponent? You're not the coach. But you brought him in here, and I'll have to say it's the last game I saw Linfield play was against Chapman in a playoff game down at Chapman. I think we had 5 overtimes before they beat us. They're a good team, so
Yeah, Chapman, and I just had the chance to catch up with Coach Owens, who I've known for about 20 years, who's the head coach down there. And they do a really, really good job. And they're a little different than a lot of the Northwest institutions that carry large rosters. They kind of have a roster limitation. They're only allowed to bring 95 players into camp. So it's a competitive roster spot in one of the most talented areas in the country for high school football. So they bring in great classes each and every year. They play tough, they play fast, and really, really excited. Now, they did not get a chance to play at all last year, either in the fall or in the spring. So the couple games that we got in March against George Fox, I think are really going to pay some dividends in this early season game. And kind of roster wise, we have a chance to be pretty darn good offensively. We've got a number of quote unquote 5th year seniors back that the NCAA gave a blanket waiver last year, so nobody lost eligibility by being around. So we've got some super seniors that are taking advantage of that. A tailback that is really, really good, Josh Harris. Kenyon Harris, who is all conference quarterback, is back. And then we've got 3 wide receivers that we think could make up a group of receivers that'll be amongst the top receiving crew in the conference. And then Coach Gilligan on defense is always a tough out. He puts a great game plan together, and there's a group of young and exciting players that are going to be a part of that defense. And it was nice, got out last Friday and saw their scrimmage, and true NFL preseason mentality. Not a lot of the starters playing a ton of reps as we got ready for Friday night, but there's a chance that there's some good things coming for Pacific football. And for those that have met Ian, know Ian, he is one of the best recruiters I've ever been around. And one of the things that he did for us in the 10 years that I was in charge is he dialed up recruiting as well as anybody. And that is holding true as he's taken the helm as well. So excited for the future. And it really wasn't a second thought when I took over that Ian wouldn't be the one to take over the program when I stepped away. Yeah, Tim.
Talk to us a little bit about the number of student athletes as compared to the number of students at Pacific. Traditionally, we've had a lot of depth. We've had a lot of kids who are student athletes. What's the situation now?
Yeah, we, the initial eligibility rosters this year, which is kind of what coaches submit as these are the ones that we think are going to be a part of the program, both returning and new students. We were just a hair shy of 600 student athletes on that list amongst the 24 varsity sports. And so it is a good chunk. And now all 600 of those aren't going to make it all the way through the year. You know, as we all know, interest and availability changes for some. And so some of those student athletes will identify other experiences that they want to have, whether it be academic or club kind of activities. But yeah, there's about 600 coming in the door this fall that at least had an interest and a desire to try and play collegiate sports for us, which typically in a given year ends up being somewhere in the high 20s to low 30s percentage wise of the overall population. Yeah, Blake.
Hey, Buck. So in our conference, we've had some of our teams have had some issues with filling out their non-conference schedules, either with teams that are a little gun shy about traveling up to the Northwest or just with other COVID issues. Have the Pacific teams had any difficulty in being able to fill out their non-conference schedules?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. And you know, we're only playing 9 football games this year, which I know some other teams in the conference traditionally only play 9. We've always played 10 as best as we could schedule. But yeah, there was a lot of hesitancy for teams, especially those that had to get on planes to schedule those home and homes in the last couple of years. So it is a challenge, but I think it's a challenge that everybody's facing just across the board in all sports. So we're working hard to try and maximize opportunities. And, you know, a lot of sports will be playing those NAIA schools up here in the Northwest just to get the competitions in. But we are working hard to have the student athlete experience include travel outside the region. And whether that's California, our volleyball team heads out to Minnesota this week for their tournament, kind of preseason tournament. So we're continuing to push and advocate to get our teams out, because that's a neat part of the experience for student athletes is to be able to travel with the team and have that kind of bonding experience. So yeah, and while I got Blake on the line here, I think I've said it before, but just so everybody knows, football would not have been where it was in the early years without Blake's help. Blake was the sports information director when I was hired, and the marketing, promotion, and excitement around Pacific football returning really did start and end with Blake and his efforts. So I am forever indebted to Blake for the work that he did and helping me be successful in my job. So Blake, again, thank you publicly for your time at Pacific.
It was a team effort. My pleasure.
Paul, I think you maybe had your hand up.
I did. What kind of protocols are the players going to have to go through to participate, as far as during competitions, mask wearing, not mask wearing, before competitions, you know, testing, that kind of stuff? What do they have to do to be able to participate?
Yeah, so Pacific is a vaccinated campus. So we early on made the announcement that we were going to require vaccination for all faculty, staff, and students. You know, with some limited exemptions for medical and bona fide religious exemptions. So the athletic department right now is just a hair north of 96% vaccinated. And so there's different protocols for vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals, both from the NCAA guidance as well as our institutional policies. But we are following the NCAA fall resocialization plan that calls for unvaccinated individuals to be tested weekly. So we are following that, and unvaccinated have a much less restrictive activity guide. And then the governor, with the recent indoor and outdoor mask updates, did exempt competitive and organized practice sports. So when our teams are playing, they will not be masked. And that is in line with everybody out there being vaccinated or tested before participation. But on campus, everybody is masked indoors, in class, walking in the buildings. Our fitness center, which is open recreation versus organized competitive sports, is all masked for workouts in there. So it's basically mask all the time, except for a few scenarios of when you're alone in your office, when you're eating, and then in the competitive sport world.
Can you tell me a little bit about the rowing program? I see the big building out at Hag Lake and the new dock that's out there. When is their season and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, rowing's a really interesting one. It's it's not one that there is a huge high school population of rowers. Typically, it is in kind of private rowing clubs that kids grow up in and have to be close and accessible to water to have an experience with it. So a lot of what we do with the rowing program is recruit off campus in terms of students that are looking for some kind of activity to participate in. We did some recruitment at freshman orientation this weekend and had a number of interests to come out and be on the lake with us. And Charlotte Kopp, who is our new rowing coach, is very, very connected to USA Rowing, is actually trying to work her way into trying out for the rowing national team. So she is very connected to the clubs and in the West Coast and really excited about that. We did just kind of get a new dock. It was time after about 10 years to replace the old dock and have a great partnership with Hag Lake, with the county and BLM to make sure that we've got everything set for the boathouse out there and the dock to be kept up and accessible for people to use. So it's a fun sport. It's a challenging sport because we have to drive out to Hag Lake to practice. We do have an erg room here on campus that they practice a lot, but to get out on the water, we got to load the vans and the trailer up and get the boats out there and get on the water, which is early in the morning before classes when there's no motorboats out there. Just a pristine experience for those student athletes. Yeah, Richard.
Yes, I'm having a hard time saying goodbye to paper tickets. That I will find out Friday night whether I made it work or not. But
Yeah.
It's definitely a different adventure for me. I have no souvenir to pin to the wall.
Well, I'll tell you what, Richard, if you need those souvenirs to go on the wall, we can help accommodate that. We are going to have a few paper tickets available that we can transfer to you if we need to. But we're trying to modernize a little bit. We're trying to streamline getting into the stadium a little bit more, especially with some of these additional protocols that we've had to add in. And so we're testing this out. Friday is going to be a real test of our protocol, our ticketing, and just how we can run competitions well in the face of everything that's going on right now. So I agree with you. I do love having some of those paper tickets. I've still got the paper ticket from our first home win, from our championship game win, from a few of those marquee wins that are in my little memory box. But we're moving forward with technology, and I think it's really going to help over time, and will help us kind of track a little bit who is coming to the games, that we can contact folks that have been at the games to remind them of tickets and remind them of contests and those kind of things. So I think it's ultimately a net positive for the department and for our fans.
Well, I'm going to try it out this Friday and see how things go. And I plan to also be at the tailgate thing there and then work my way through the protocols to get in.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm going to be there, Richard. And if you got any problems, come find me. If you've got any feedback, come find me. This is not something that we've done before. So we're going to go through it and try and get better every time we do it to make it as painless as possible for everybody to have a great time cheering on the Boxers. Yeah, Tim.
Talk to us a little bit about gender equity. I know with 100+ football players, it's hard to then balance out and give females equal opportunity. Where do we stand?
We stand in great position. And one of the first things that I did when I started to take over the day-to-day operations is I commissioned an outside consultant firm to come in and do a athletic department review. And what I wanted to do was really identify what our department strengths were, what our weaknesses were, what liabilities, if any, we had that needed to be addressed kind of, early in my tenure and things that we could work on for the long term. But we are one of the largest athletic departments in the conference. We offer the most sports in the conference at 24 varsity sports. So we are meeting the interests and needs of both genders in terms of opportunities. And that is the major component of Title IX and gender equity, is that we are meeting the interests and that there is a similarity in the experience of those student athletes. And one is not being prioritized over the other. And so we've worked very hard in everything that we do. We take an equity lens to it and make sure that we are equitably providing a positive student athlete experience. Now, that doesn't mean that the experience is equal and exact, but it means that it's equitable in the opportunity to have an experience that meets the standard of each sport kind of across the country. So I'm very proud, and Lauren Brownrigg, who is our senior associate athletic director and senior woman administrator, is a tremendous partner with me in the administration of the department. And we are really committed to equity, diversity, and inclusion work in the department. We immediately added a gender inclusive bathroom shortly after I started, because that was something that we were missing in the department. So we're working our tails off to make sure that that's something we pay attention to in every decision that we're making in the department.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Coach. Really appreciate your time, and excited to see how you continue your tenure at Pacific now that you moved into this new role. So
I appreciate it, and I'm genuinely sincere. I always love coming to see the Rotary, and hopefully here sometime down the road, I'll be able to come in and actually have lunch with everybody and catch up again. So thank you for the invite, and really appreciate the work that you all do to make Forest Grove a better place. So thank you, and look forward to seeing you sometime down the road on campus. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks.